wait a minute. I think I just solved the mystery of how the LED system works. Salutations everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Toyama23 Hobby channel. And welcome to another segment that I like to call Hobby Head, where I think hard and loud about the hobby. In this episode, we'll be taking a look into the new upcoming December release for 2020, the first of its kind, the Perfect Grade Unleashed RX-78-2 Gundam. Now up with the first picture and on with the scrutinizing. And right off the bat we have a CG image, and they actually have a nice balance between harsh details and the simplicity of the Gundam. The RX-78-2 Gundam is the first Gundam, and even though it has a lot of added detail to it, it still maintains that nice simplicity to it, which is a plus in my opinion. And if you zoom close into the chest armor here on the top part here, it looks like they maintained the design from the Katoki version of the RX-78-2 Gundam. And the one major change for me is the way this chest vents look. In many iterations it was square or rectangular, but here they seem to go for a more angled look. It's a little jarring for a first time looking at this kit, but perhaps if I have the kit in front of me I would think otherwise, and that the design makes sense. Now there are a lot of marking stickers all over the Gundam, but based on what I've read, Bandai says they are releasing a newer type of stickers. So we'll see how much of the marking decals is actually either water transfer or dry transfer or just plain stickers, and how much is actually the new type of stickers they're talking about. Hopefully all of them are the new type of stickers. New type. And speaking of stickers, on the left side here we have green colored stickers, and on the right side we have red color stickers, much like airplanes today, to highlight port and starboard section of the Gundam, which gives this a little bit more of that realistic design. And also much like that new statue in Yokohama. I don't want to call it a statue because it moves. Statue that moves ain't statue. That Gundam, much like that Gundam in Yokohama. Next picture we have a close-up of the Gundam, and based on this picture here I noticed that the top camera lens is red, whereas the eyes are yellow. So I'm speculating that it's one LED, but somehow gives out two different types of color. And here we have a little bit of a zoom out, and with the Gundam with its open hatch gimmicks. And to see all this different hatch opening really makes me happy. But perhaps not on the shield, but we don't want the shield to be so fanciful anyways. With all the hatch openings here, I wonder if this part sticking out from the beam rifle is actually part of the gimmick for the hatch opening here, or if the beam rifle actually just looks like that. That is something we'll have to find out. Next we have another open hatch gimmick, and what I notice is the opening hatch gimmicks goes all the way from the top of the head all the way down to the bottom of the feet. And looking into the knee armor here, we see like three different colors on the inside. We have this inner frame, this gold part, and then also this silver part. And also Bandai did say they have a LED unit in the beam saber to make it glow. And looking at the back of the shield, we see there is a big gray inner piece here. From my experience building the shield in the master grade, it usually is the white part and the red part with the handle parts on the inside of the shield. But this here looks like a third layer to the shield. And hopefully they also have an opening hatch gimmick for this part of the shield here. Just like the master grade where you can close the visor and open it. I'm sure they'll have it. It's the perfect grade, for crying out loud. Next picture we have the Gundam recreating this iconic pose that it often does. And to see it being able to do this, which is a good thing, because if it can't do what it used to do before, I don't see how that's an upgrade. And also this is one picture where you can see the bottom of the feet, and we see that there's also inner frame that will stick out at the bottom of the feet, and it comes with 2 different speakers at the bottom of the feet. I'm kidding. And the one thing I gather here is the side crunch on the Gundam. You'll see some inner frame and also some chrome plating on the underneath when you make this motion with the Gundam. Another interesting point out is this hatch over here on the underneath of the arm. We know it's a hatch, but probably also a way for you to connect the shield with the Gundam. It's a nice touch when you can close this shutter here when we're not using the shield. It's one step to do, but it gives this thing a much more mechanical feel. And looking at the knee armor, I noticed that this part here will also slide down, which means we'll get more than just one knee armor movement with this kit. So much more shifting armor, much more mechanical movements, more meticulous design put into this kit, and all those makes me excited. Now the Alexander Hamilton pose, I'm just kidding, it's the final shot pose. Now the final shot pose I know is more accurate without its head and one of its arms missing, but we just can't seem to do that to our Gundams. But some of you do, and thank you for doing that. I have a hard time with that. The one thing to really pay attention to in this final shot pose is looking at how the arms here actually articulate, how the shoulder armor actually shifts up in tandem with the arm. A lot of meticulous detail went into making this Gundam. For a Gundam to do this pose means it can support the weight of the rifle and hold it up, unlike other perfect grades I know. Next we have a look at the Gundam's inner frame, and first thing I noticed is there is no inner frame for the inside of the mouth. I guess it doesn't need it. It's not like it talks or it eats. I'm not sure if I like that, but perhaps if I have the Gundam again in front of me, I might change my thoughts on that. I really do like this inner frame design. The one thing I don't like about many other Gundam inner frame design is that some parts of the inner frame looks amazing, whereas some parts look like it doesn't stand on its own, and it feels like pieces needs to be attached to it. Whereas this inner frame really does look like it stands on its own, like you can display it like this without the armor and it feels complete. If I were to nitpick, I would point out these parts here that sticks out like that, but because they're not the same size, it gives it that complete feel to this inner frame. And to see many different shades of gray on this inner frame, that's a plus. Having a closer look at the cockpit and looking closer at this part here, it really does look like it's more than just a piece of plastic holding plastic together. It actually does look like some sort of hydraulics and pistons, which really contributes to a more expensive mechanical look, if you will. So it might be a core fighter, it might be a core block, it looks different, but my other guess is that it might just be this frame part here that is covering it. So if you remove this frame part, then perhaps we can be able to tell more if it was a core fighter or the core block. And in our next picture we have this little thing that Bandai likes to do, where all the armor pieces explode out of the body and floats that way. And right off the bat, what I gather is that there is a lot of parts to form the armor. It's not just 2 pieces of armor part slapped together on the inner frame and you form the lower part of the arm. No, it's actually quite a few pieces. And we see how the opening hatch gimmick works here. It's actually hatch on the outer armor. A little concern that I have is the hatch from this knee part. I wonder if you lean the Gundam forward, will these part just hang out? Will the hatch open up, or will it be solid enough to close? So I'm hoping that it's like a little bit of a clip thing so that it holds the part in. And apart from that, if we actually take a closer look into the inside, the under part of the armor, we see there are molded in details as well. And I also like what Bandai does here with the hand, seeing how this part is chrome and it will peek through the chrome and it will peek through the top of this armor piece here. And at the bottom of the feet, seeing how there are crevices like such also mean more inner frame peeking out. And from the bottom of this feet here, we see there are two different type of red. Our next picture highlights what the LED does. And also, I know that they talk about some light piping system and to see how it works here. So it will also be interesting to see what type of LED Bandai uses, because the chest actually can be a different color from the eyes. So it'll be interesting to see if it's one or multiple LEDs to this Gundam. And I don't think it's in the head, I think it's in the chest. It might be in the head, because I'm also thinking of the logistics of where the switch will be. So yeah, that's my guess, that it's in the head. But also based on what I know, the parts that light up is the top camera, the eyes, the chest, and also the back thrusters. So we'll just have to see what type of techno gizmo Bandai uses to light up everything here. I don't know when the Gundam uses this blue eye, so if you do know, please leave a comment and let us all know. Also, looking closer into the vents on the chest, it looks like they can move in tandem with each other, and it can be closed as well. If not, it better. It's the perfect grade, man. Perfect grade here. Now on this picture, I can't read Japanese, but I'm pretty sure it's highlighting how this kit actually has a lot of articulation, and there are many parts that move in tandem because they are connected like such. Now looking closer into the design of the waist, I don't know if it has a variable hip like it does with the many other master grade before it, and perhaps just the movement of this part, the red part here and this green part itself, will be enough to give the legs the freedom to move like the other traditional variable waist. Now, wait a minute. I think I just solved the mystery of how the LED system works here. If we have a closer look at the head camera lens, you notice they're both red colored parts. So if you shine any light on it, it will always glow red. And I'm sure the back thrusters are the same thing. The color of the eyes may change from yellow, green, or blue, but because that red piece is a solid, clear red piece, it will always shine red, and so will the back thrusters. And if you look closer here into this picture, the LED system is right here. This white part is the LED system, and it will have one LED to shine upwards towards this light piping here, and there is one more LED here facing the front of the chest. So whatever color that changes into, it will be reflected on the chest. And perhaps there are some light piping system that directs the light into the back veneers. So guys, there you have it. That is the mystery of how this thing works. The final question remains is, where is the switch? That we will have to wait to find out. Now over here is a little picture that I like to show about the inner frame that they call bones. And yeah, many of us have this worry because they did this same thing with the real grade Gundam, and many people were not a fan. However, that was also a real grade, meaning it's a 1/44 scale, which is much smaller, whereas with this kit it's a 1/60th scale. So being big, perhaps having all these molded parts in there does make a difference. And it's also not just this parts supporting the armor on its own. This, like it says, like Bandai calls it, the bones. And we know based on this other picture here, there's phase 1, phase 2. Phase 2 which would be like putting more support on those bones. And then we have phase 3, which would be the outer part of the inner frame. So I'm guessing all these things sandwiched together will just make this kit even more solid. So I won't be so worried about all these parts being pre-molded. And here we have the doing a kneeling pose. I noticed that the knee does not touch the floor. Hopefully with the armor it does. But if it don't, if it's upright this way, I'm pretty sure it will be upright when you do the same thing. The master grade origin, if you do this pose, it will hold it because the knee armor actually supports the Gundam from being upright. So we'll have to see what happens. We can see that this Gundam without its armor looks strong. The inner frame looks strong, it looks beefy, it looks meaty, if you will. There's no meat, you know, it's metal. I don't like to paint inner frame solely on the fact that I can't afford to. So to get a kit looking like this, like it's painted for you, is awesome. Inner frame galore here. Next picture we have the Core Fighter, and I'm happy to point out that this Core Fighter is a completely different new mold and not a recycled one. Because first off, if you compare it to the older one here, you'll notice that the tail is smaller and there is no more white part here. Also, if you look at the side vents here, the air intake, it's much smaller compared to the older one. And I'm happy to see this blue part behind the wheels here, which can only mean one thing, that the wheels, the landing gear, can be kept underneath and you don't have to remove it to store it like the previous perfect grade. And looking inside at the pilot here, it's nice to see a whole bunch of detail on it, but seeing it is unpainted means all the other pilot figures in this kit will be unpainted. And no doubt this Core Fighter will be able to fold up to form the core block. But based on the other pictures that we have, I don't think that they will only just give you the Core Fighter. They will also include a core block so you can display this Core Fighter outside the Gundam. And looking here, there is a little crevice here, which means this Core Fighter canopy can actually be lifted up. Now my little one nitpick thing about this Core Fighter would be the canopy. Seeing this part is a clear plastic and not painted white, a white frame that we actually put clear plastic underneath, is a little bummer for me. Or perhaps this is redesigned to the new Unleashed Perfect Grade. Now while we're here, let's look at the pilot figures. They look nice with lots of detail onto them. Look at the crease on Amuro Ray's space gear and the hair too. And seeing it, that it's on this little base here shows that they are on a little bit of a dynamic way of standing, that you need that base for the guy to stand up. So they look a little dynamic. Now if I were to nitpick, I would say the thighs are joined together. And if you look at Saint Lamas here, her helmet is joined to her hips there. And I'm pretty sure Amuro's helmet would be joined to him too. Another thing that I'm not so big of a fan of is the way Sayla is standing here. Because for me, it feels a little out of character. And our final picture here, we have all the accessories that come with it. Looking at the hands here, seeing how they gave us all these pre-posed hands, I know for sure we won't be getting hands that you can actually articulate, manipulators that you can actually articulate like previous perfect grades. And seeing how they give us 3 beam sabers, that's nice, that's generous, in case we lose one, I guess, unless the Gundam has a 3rd beam saber that I don't know of. And finally, looking at the beam saber here, my guess is this is the only recycled part from previous kits. Probably even the same beam saber used by the Master Grade Double Zeta Gundam. The only difference that I can think of is it's not a clear pink beam effect, it's a cloudy beam effect. And perhaps this is so that it catches the light more from the LED inside the beam saber, or it might just be a CGI rendering of what the beam saber effect looks like. If it were up to me, I would prefer the beam saber color and material to be made by the same material as used in the Perfect Grade Unicorn Psycho frame. And I would like the LED inside the beam saber to be a ultraviolet type of LED. That way it will light up the beam saber in a very unique way. So guys, there we have it. That was me scrutinizing the new Perfect Grade Unleashed RX-78-2 Gundam. And a little bit of a final thought, I am very excited. I'm stoked. And also the RX-78-2 being my wife's favorite amongst all the other plethora of different Gundams out there just makes me want this kit even more, because the both of us will be happy having it. Even though it has a lot more details onto it and panel lines all over and different coloring, they still maintain that good guy look and they don't make it so menacing looking which is something I really appreciate. So overall, I am very happy with this newer release, and I'm really glad this is what our December release is for this year. It really blows everything out of the water, and Bandai really did up the ante here. However, seeing this being called the Perfect Grade Unleashed really makes me wonder about what's going to happen with the other Perfect Grades from now on. Will we continue getting Perfect Grade kits, or will we get Perfect Grade Unleashed? You see, which also means that every single Perfect Grade Unleashed kit after this would be way more and more expensive compared to this one. I can imagine adding wings or fancy backpack or height to the model kit itself will really up the price. But I really think the price for this kit is reasonable, because I was looking at all the other Perfect Grade, and for me, I thought the Perfect Grade that I would buy would be the Unicorn, but it does not have LEDs in it unless you buy it with the LED, or you buy the LED separate from it, and together that's really unaffordable for me. Whereas for this guy, it comes with the LED. It's the complete package to it. Yeah, it does not have the Gundam hammer or the bazooka, but I'm happy with what it comes here. And often I don't really display my Gundam with its weapons anyway, because if you guys know me, I'm more to the design than the action fighting poses. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is the death of the Perfect Grade line? Or perhaps this is a one-off thing, and every once in a while we'll get a new Perfect Grade Unleashed kit? Please let me know what your thoughts are by leaving a comment below. And what are your thoughts on the next Perfect Grade Unleashed kit? My guess would be a Zaku or a Char's Aznable Zaku. That will be cool. Now with that kit, because it's Xeon, I wouldn't mind if they make it look a little bit more menacing. Well guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Toyama23 hobby channel. So give this channel a like or subscribe, and I promise you guys more contents like this. It has been a pleasure speculating and scrutinizing the images for you guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. And guys, keep things awesome, keep the hobbies going, keep the hobbyist alive. This is Toyama23 signing out.